Guys, let's go into more details about this. And a question that I had when I saw on Friday that the breaking news was why now? Why did they, for example, for the 15 points deducted, why doesn't it apply next season? Why right through halfway the season, this is for now?
So I think that's a good question. So a couple things to say here. I mean, first of all, I think it would be worse for Juventus if it applied for next season, because you can imagine in terms of attracting players in the transfer market,
fair enough,
future revenue, and whatever. Here, you just take the hit right straight away. I think it is customary in these situations. And by the way, the penalty applies straight away, but they're going to get those 15 points back if they can get it overturned at the hearing with the IOC. Or they have a level, there's another level that they can appeal to. Obviously, that's the Court of Arbitration of Sport, which would be kind of the appeal of last resort to try to get it overturned. And I think all this will go pretty quickly and obviously needs to happen probably before June, right? But it is customary that the point deductions happen straight away, because the idea is these are for crimes or misdeeds that happened before. So it's happened before that, last time it happened, I think was Parma, 24-15. They weren't paying players and were missing payments, and they ended up being fined a total of 7 points, but it was like 2 points one week, another point the next week, and so on. And it was in season. Yeah. So I don't think that part is that unusual. Another point people have made up is, why are this isn't illegal, why are Juve being, the whole basis of this, it's an accounting thing. Nobody's ever been punished before. Well, that's not true. Chievo in 2021, of course, famously for doing pretty much the same thing, right? Inflating transfer values to make their books look better so that they could enroll themselves in the league. And another question people may have is, if you're not doing this to generate money, to generate real money, you're not benefiting from it, what's the harm? What's the crime here? Well, the harm with doing this is if you're misstating these accounts, you have to have a certain amount of equity in your club, or a certain amount of value in your clubs to be able to register for the upcoming season. Yeah. You have to meet certain financial requirements. Otherwise, your ownership has to go and inject equity in the club to make up for it. So this is a very obvious way to do it. Yeah. And it's an obvious way to meet financial fair play requirements as well, which is why, as you know, UEFA have opened an investigation.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because it's been a crazy last few years, really, for Juve. Since the title and the salary, which was the last title. After that, the decision that they made, all the money that they lost through the pandemic and, etc. And now this, on top of the bad results, or average results, let's put it that way, there's the financial fair play UEFA investigation. There's those payments that they deferred to the players during, which is also under investigation. So there could be even more trouble.
Yeah, so the UEFA basically has said, all right, well, if you've been, it's almost like automatic, right? You're under investigation, there's a criminal inquiry against you for misstating accounts. We rely on your accounts to allow you to play, so you have the requirement to play in the Champions League. If you falsified those accounts, you shouldn't have played and you shouldn't have had that money, so we need to penalize you. That's essentially UEFA's standpoint. They're going to go and they're going to verify this, and I think there's definite risk there. Think? Well, if the sentence stands that they misstated their accounts, and those are the accounts that they submitted to UEFA, at the very least, there's a fine, possibly an exclusion, as I see it, if all this stuff stands. And I think the criminal investigation will probably have more weight there, because, in the end, with the criminal investigation, it's pretty open and shut. Yeah. What would really scare me is the business that they did with, and we've talked about this before, with the deferred payments to the players, where they told the stock exchange and they told their shareholders, oh, look, the players took a pay cut of 4 months, I think it was, when in reality, it was really 1 month, and they were likely going to make that money back through bonuses the following season. Yeah. One of the guys who, by the way, didn't sign this agreement, Cristiano Ronaldo, which is why they're trying to subpoena him to see if he's willing to answer. I think he's in Saudi Arabia. I don't think he's staying. No. And by the way, to make this very clear, Cristiano Ronaldo has done nothing wrong in this one. In fact, if anything, he stuck to the rules. Yeah, actually. But obviously, they owe him money as well. So that's the difficult one, because you have an obligation towards your shareholders. And You can say, oh, but the main shareholder is Exor, which is controlled by which is this international holding company. They also own parts they own commercial real estate. They own a big chunk of The Economist as well. And obviously they have shares in Fiat. It's true, they're the Agnelli family, but there's also 37% of the shareholders of Juventus who are not part of Exor. Yeah. And these are people who invested in it. These are pension funds. And, I have my money with Vanguard. So technically, I could be a Juve investor too, right? If you misstate the accounts, that's a really, really serious condition, which is why the whole board changed. And that could land them into serious trouble, I think, with UEFA. And
in terms of football, so this game was coming. So they had the thrashing against Napoli the weekend before. Then they won in the Coppa d'Italia against Monza in midweek. But then Friday, that punishment. And then that big game against Atalanta on Sunday last night, where I thought they reacted because they went 1-0 down. They came back. Then they went behind again. They came back. Yeah. I think Allegri was happy with the reaction of the players, in considering the difficult circumstances.
Yeah, no, I think on the pitch there were a lot of positives. People were like, "Oh, how's this going to affect the players?" I don't think the players are, they're talking about it, but the players want to go out and they want to control what they can control, which is on the pitch.
Yeah,
I thought you saw a great reaction. Di Maria, who has been critical of the past, played really well. Yeah. Fagioli, I don't think there's any question that Fagioli and Miretti are his future at this stage. They both did really well. Your boy Arik Milik scored a fantastic finish. Great finish. In the end, they had to settle for a point. I thought maybe they might have deserved a little bit more. Interesting reaction, though, from the Juve sphere, the Juve fans. So on social media, you get a ton of, we're being scapegoated, blah, blah, blah. They're super negative about it. And I think they've been quieter. There's also a big chunk of Juve fans who frankly say, why is it always us? What is the issue here? Yeah. How could we have lied to our own shareholders? How could we have misstated these accounts? Why did this go on for so long? And then on top of that, there's also the Juve Ultras. And to be fair to them, Juve Ultras have had a very difficult relationship with the club, because the club have tried to kind of remove them. They say some of them represent a criminal element. Yeah. Others, they say, no, we're bad for business because we just make noise. And they came out, two of the main ultras groups, the Drugi and the Viking, they came out with a really, really harsh statement where essentially they said, this is worse than Calciopoli in 2006, because 2006, we were picked on, we were actually innocent. A lot of Juve fans believe that. This time, there's freaking wiretaps saying that we're doing something illegal, and we know we're doing it. Yeah. And they really blame Andrea Agnelli and the board for allowing this to happen on his watch. So there is a pretty nasty backlash from them as well. Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of people realize that you can't build a castle on sand. And this also explains the Super League. Oh, and by the way, if UEFA win the Super League case, it opens a door for them sanctioning Juventus, Barcelona, and Real Madrid for their part, because that's essentially
more trouble.
Exactly, more financial woe. And there's a lot of people now. Some of these are saying, like, they just want to say, like, why can't we be normal? Yeah, why can't we be like a normal club? Why can't we, And I don't know. I think opinion is definitely divided there. What we do know is the new board are going to fight these charges. And so they should. Yeah. I think they do. They're going to fight these charges based on the fact that they were found innocent the first time around. And they're going to try to undo this whole thing.
Yeah, that was the second trial. That was the second trial.
They reopened it based on the new evidence. They're going to say, well, systematic. What does this mean? And they're going to try to do it on the fact that, we need to... They might hang on to some technical points as well, which is sort of the time frame in which the appeal was lodged and the new trial came up. Although, again, in terms of PR, if you do get off on a technicality, it doesn't do you much good.
No, definitely not. We should say that Agnelli got, I think, banned for 24 months.
Yes, Agnelli got a 2-year ban.
Yeah, Cherubini and Paratici, which we mentioned a bit later on the show.
Yeah, Fabio Paratici getting, who's now at Spurs, obviously got a 2.5-year, I think, a ban. Interestingly enough, their chief football officer now, especially with Cherubini banned, is Francesco Calvo, who many years ago, I think he was one of Agnelli's closest friends. He was at the club for a number of years. I think he was chief revenue officer at the club. And then he left. He worked at Barcelona. He worked at Roma. He came back, I think, a year ago. And then and now obviously he's in charge of the football operation. Interesting stories about Francesco Calvo and his relationship with Andrea Agnelli, but I'll leave you guys to do some Googling on that one.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.